Chapter 117. As one of the top wealthy families in Jianghu State, the Dongqing clan was extremely prosperous in Dongqing Wudi's generation. Dongqing Hanguang, the old master, also had 5 brothers, but 3 of them died on the battlefield. He and his younger brother, Dongqing Hanjian, had been supporting the huge Dongqing clan. At that time, the Dongqing clan was still a top wealthy and glorious family, but the pressure was not known to outsiders. In Dongqing Wudi's generation, the whole Dongqing clan really blossomed and bore fruit. Dongqing Wudi had 5 siblings, Wudi, Wushuang, Endless and Boundless, and Dongqing Wuqiu. Each of them was a real leader in their respective fields and could take charge of an area on their own. Even his wives and sons-in-law were all talents. Everyone in this generation of the Dongqing clan was not useless. Because of this, the Dongqing clan was now more prosperous than ever. The leader of the Dongqing clan today was Dongqing Wudi, a member of the decision-making committee known as the God of Massacre in Jianghu State. Although he was not a director giant, the only director giant in the giant group often followed Dongqing Wudi's opinion, which showed the status of the Dongqing clan in the giant group. If it weren't for the fact that Dongqing Wudi had no decent men in the next generation and only relied on the 2 sisters, Dongqing Qiuqi and Dongqing Rushi, the momentum of the Dongqing clan today would be even more amazing. That was really carrying on the past and opening up the future. It was drizzling in Luojing. Tiny raindrops fell on the sky above the ancient capital of the 13 dynasties, beautiful and tranquil. An Audi with a military license plate slowly drove out of the airport and went all the way along the airport expressway. After crossing most of the urban area of Luojing, it went straight to the suburbs at a steady pace. The mountain that symbolized supreme power in Luojing was getting closer and closer. The mountain rain was hazy. There was a vast silence between heaven and earth. On both sides of the mountain road, soldiers in raincoats with loaded guns stood motionless, silent and piercingly cold. The mountain occupied by the Dongqing clan was said to be a military restricted zone. A regiment of troops was stationed here all year round. From the head of the regiment to each soldier, although the establishment number was under the name of the Zhongyuan military region, the Dongqing clan was responsible for all the living and wages of these veterans transferred from the border Praetorian Corps. It was not an exaggeration to say that this was the Dongqing clan's private army. The Audi with the military license plate passed by the sign engraved with the words, Military Restricted Zone. The 2 rows of veterans guarding the intersection of the mountain road turned around at the same time and gestured for the Audi to stop. The Audi slowly came to a stop. The captain of the veteran squad quickly walked to the driver's seat, and before he could reach out to knock on the window had already rolled down. An extremely burly figure appeared in the captain's line of sight. This was a young man who looked to be in his 30s. He was dressed in a military uniform and had a resolute expression on his face. His body was so huge that it was almost majestic. Even though he was sitting in the car, the captain could clearly sense the other party's surging and suffocating power. The captain glanced at the lieutenant colonel insignia and subconsciously wanted to salute. However, the majestic young man had already slowly said, "Make way. Mrs. Dongqing is in the car." Mrs. Dongqing? The captain was stunned subconsciously. He had been in the Dongqing clan for nearly 5 years and naturally knew the important figures of the Dongqing clan very well. Now several madams of Dongqing seemed to be on the mountain. How could another madam of Dongqing appear here? The captain was still in a daze. The rear window of the Audi had slowly rolled down, and a very soft and gentle voice sounded from the back. "Is it old Sue? When I went to the border camp, I saw you beside Wudi. Wudi said that you took a bullet for him on the battlefield? Why were you transferred here from the Border Control Corps?" Old Sue turned his head in disbelief. In the back of the car, through the rolled-down window, a woman who looked only about 30 years old was looking at him with a smile. This was a woman who could hardly be described as beautiful. If one had to add a word to her, it could only be beautiful. A woman who was so beautiful that people would feel awe. She was dressed in a decent lady's suit and had her hair tied up. Every move she made was indescribably graceful and luxurious. The peonies in Luojing were the best in the world, and she was like the most beautiful peonies in Luojing. She was dignified, elegant, gentle, and kind. Her beautiful face seemed a little haggard, but when her eyes moved, there was only a faint dignity that could make people feel pressure, in addition to amiability. Old Sue's whole body trembled with excitement. The rain beat on the raincoat, pitter-patter. Under the rain, Old Sue suddenly stood up straight, saluted, and said loudly, "Secretary Bai." The woman nodded gently, coughed, and said with a smile, "I've caught a bad cold recently, so I won't get out of the car. We're on the same side, so there's no need to be so polite, right?" "Yes, yes. Secretary Bai's health is important. You must pay more attention." Old Sue nodded repeatedly and spoke almost incoherently. He suddenly turned around, waved his hand, and said, "Get out of the way, Secretary Bai is back." Several soldiers immediately got out of the way. The Audi slowly walked past Old Sue. When it brushed past the car, Old Sue narrowed his eyes. He could vaguely see a young woman who looked somewhat similar to Secretary Bai sitting next to her. She was casually playing with a dagger with a piercing cold glint in her eyes. Old Sue shook his head, pulled a soldier over, suppressed the ecstasy in his heart, and said, "Hurry up, call the regimental commander and tell him that Secretary Bai is back. Ask him to tell the old master quickly." In the entire Jianghu state, there was only one Mrs. Dongqing who could be called Secretary Bai. She was an extraordinary woman in the political arena of Jianghu state. She was Dongqing Wudi's wife, but she was not a vassal of Dongqing Wudi. Even when the two stood together, people could also see the sky that belonged to her when they admired the temperament of the god of massacre. Bai Qingxian, the former governor of Qinzhou province in Jianghu state and the current secretary of Guangdong province, used to be the first miss of the Bai family, and now Mrs. Dongqing. Old Sue took a deep breath. As a veteran transferred from the Border Control Corps, they had long given their faith and soul to the Dongqing clan. Anything worth being happy about in this top wealthy family was also worth celebrating for them. Bai Qingxian's arrival in the Dongqing clan was a happy event for the entire Dongqing clan. Old Sue chuckled foolishly and lit a cigarette. He took a puff happily and felt very comfortable. He had heard the old people here talk about the marriage of their marshal in private. It was said that at the beginning, the marshal and his wife were very loving. They had been attached to each other for several years after they met and got married. His wife was a high-ranking female official with a bright future outside, but at home, she was the most gentle and filial young mistress. She loved her husband, was filial to her parents-in-law, and never had any dissatisfaction. Now the relationship between the marshal and his wife was stable, but it was no longer the same as it was many years ago. According to some veterans who had stayed here for many years ago, for some unknown reason, his wife had a great conflict with Dongqing Hanguang, and even broke up completely. All of a sudden, they were almost incompatible like fire and water, and even his wife's attitude toward the marshal became cold. His wife also moved down the mountain from that time. A few years later, the marshal used some unknown means to ease the relationship with his wife. His wife also came back for a New Year's Eve dinner. Since then, no one had seen his wife come back. Over the years, even if the marshal and his wife met, they were mostly at their respective workplaces. If one counted carefully, this situation had lasted for almost 20 years. No one knew why his wife broke up with the old master, and no one dared to ask. Over time, everything about Bai Qingxian seemed to have disappeared from the mountain of the Dongqing clan. If Bai Qingxian hadn't met Old Sue when she went to the Border Control Corps to visit Dongqing Wudi 5 years ago, Old Sue wouldn't even have recognized Bai Qingxian. Old Sue grinned. For the first time in more than a decade, his wife came home. In any case, this was a good sign. The Audi drove all the way through the lush path in the mountain. The mountains and rivers were hazy, and so was the misty rain. Bai Qingxian silently looked out of the window at the strange and familiar mountain scenery, and said nothing. A woman who seemed to be 25 or 26 years old sat lazily beside Bai Qingxian, casually trimming her nails with a dagger, and said with a smile, "Aunt, the Dongqing clan has changed a lot, hasn't it? I remember I came here once when I was a child, when I was only 11 or 12 years old. After that, you didn't come back here, and I didn't come back either." Ah, by the way, you seemed to come back once later. My father was so angry at that time that he almost came to kill you. The woman's appearance looked similar to Bai Qingxian's. Sitting together, they looked like a pair of charming sisters, but their temperaments were completely opposite. Bai Qingxian seemed to have a kind of graceful and noble atmosphere and gentleness at any time, while the woman sitting next to Bai Qingxian only gave people a clear feeling of coldness and danger. It was a kind of almost overwhelming momentum, which made it easy for people to ignore that she was actually very beautiful. Bai Yuming of the Bai family in Yuzhou, known as the Little God of Massacre, was the niece of Bai Qingxian, the top leader of Yuzhou City, the eldest daughter of Bai Zhanfang, a member of the decision-making committee, and the first Miss of the Bai family. This year, first Miss Bai, who was nearly 33 years old, was still alone. She did not attract countless young talents like her aunt did in the past. She even rarely appeared in public, but in the eyes of some real big shots, Bai Yuming was a very important figure. At the age of 33, she was an expert who was about to enter the peak of the thunder-shocking realm in the stabilization phase, and was as famous as Wang Xiaoyao of the Wang family of Beihai. Just this point alone was enough to prove that she was extremely talented. Bai Yuming was not called Bai Yuming before. Only a few people knew that the ghostly name Yuming came from the mouth of Great Master Wuwei, the most respected old monk in Jianghu State, and it was Great Master Wuwei who personally came to give her a name. This honor could not be refused by the Bai family at all. What's more, what Great Master Wuwei said when he gave her a name was somewhat shocking, so the Bai family had to accept this extremely strange name. This woman is extremely lucky, but when she reaches the peak, she will decline. She will die early, so she should be buffered by Yin Qi. The word Yuming is the most suitable. This was the original words of Great Master Wuwei. Since then, the name Bai Yuming had been fixed. Now Bai Yuming, who was 33 years old, had been very smooth since she was a child. Although she was not famous in Yuzhou, in the dark world, the title of Little God of Massacre was extremely resounding. Her progress in martial arts seemed to indicate that she was extremely lucky. And, do you remember you took me here to play when I was a child? There seems to be a water garden on the mountain, right? Let's go and have a look later. Bai Yuming looked at Bai Qingxian, who was silent, and continued to say with a smile. Bai Qingxian shook her head and said softly, I have long forgotten where it is. They had not contacted each other for more than 10 years. Not to mention the water garden, she could hardly remember where the old man lived. Bai Yuming sighed softly and said no more. It had always been a mystery why her aunt broke up with the old master of the Dongqing clan over the years. Even when she returned to her parents' home, no matter how her father asked, her aunt refused to say a word. If it were not for her aunt's unchanged attitude in supporting the Dongqing clan, perhaps the Bai family and the Dongqing clan, the two pillar families of the giant group, would have publicly broken up. Chapter 118. There's one more chapter, 2 in a row. Don't miss it. In the wind and rain, the Audi sped up and went straight to the top of the mountain. In front of the villa on the top of the mountain, umbrellas were leaning against each other. Under the curtain of rain, led by Dongqing Hanguang, Dongqing Wudi, Thunder God, Uncle and the servants in the villa all came out to welcome Bai Qingxian, who had not been back for more than 10 years. Bai Qingxian looked at this scene quietly with calm eyes. Aunt, you're so important that the old master came out to welcome you in person. Do you think he will hold the umbrella for you later? The Audi slowly stopped in front of the villa. Bai Qingxian opened the door with indifferent eyes and said calmly, Why do we need others to hold the umbrella? Don't we have our own umbrella? The young man who was driving had already walked out of the driver's seat with an umbrella. Dongqing Hanguang, who had walked over with an umbrella, paused subconsciously, and the others also stopped. They were not afraid, but the impact of the young man who got out of the driver's seat was too strong. He was a strong man in the real sense. Nearly 2 meters tall, he was tall and straight. His body was almost beyond the range of fat and thin. His whole body was full of explosive muscles, indescribably strong and tough. He held the umbrella and opened the door. His expression was calm, but there was a force constantly emanating from him. This man had no momentum. The only thing people could think of when they saw him was his pure strength, which seemed to be able to tear tigers and leopards. This kind of strength ignored realms and had nothing to do with combat effectiveness. His burly and thick body casually stood there, giving people a suffocating sense of oppression. Su Chu. Dongxing Wudi, who followed Dongxing Hanguang, raised his eyebrows and looked surprised. This is the first disciple of your jade pool? Dongxing Hanguang looked at the young man in front of him, who could even make him feel a strong sense of oppression, with a face full of admiration. The first disciple of Jade Pool, Su Chu, codenamed Giant God, was born with thunder vein and had unparalleled courage. With the strength at the peak of the fire-flaming realm, he could fight against a thunder-shocking realm expert. He was worthy of being called a fierce general. Su Chu, who was 30 years old this year, had been staying in Jade Pool for many years. He had no official position and rarely went down the mountain. He was even a nobody in the outside world. Dongxing Hanguang had heard about this fierce talent from his son. Now feeling the surging power in his body, the old master suddenly felt that he deserved his reputation. But why was the eldest disciple of the Jade Pool by Qingqian's side? And even became his chauffeur? Little martial uncle. Uncle. Su Chu, who was holding an umbrella, glanced at Dongxing Wudi and said hello to Bai Yuming, who got off the car. Dongxing Wudi frowned. As soon as he opened his mouth, he saw Bai Qingqian in a black suit and trousers get out of the car and stand under the umbrella in Su Chu's hand. Graceful, luxurious, and colorful. In an instant, as she got out of the car, the gloomy sky seemed to brighten up. Dongxing Wudi immediately stopped talking. He looked at the old master beside him and whispered, "Dad." Every time after a meeting in Yuzhou, he would go home for a day and then go to the border camp. Today was a coincidence that Bai Qingqian came home. Dongxing Wudi was surprised and wanted to take this opportunity to ease the relationship between his wife and his father. Dongxing Hanguang's eyes had already moved away from Su Chu and fell on Bai Qingqian. He held the umbrella tightly in his hand and took a step forward. The old man, who had been fearless all his life, suddenly felt a little timid and nervous at this moment. His eyes gradually became complicated. He was no longer calm, but a little guilty and helpless. Bai Qingqian stood quietly and looked at Dongxing Hanguang, expressionless and silent. "You're back." Dongxing Hanguang pretended to be natural and greeted her. Bai Qingqian nodded and said directly, "I have a favor to ask." "Okay." Dongxing Hanguang nodded with a smile and didn't ask what it was. He said kindly, "Let's go in first. It's still a little cold outside." "No need." Bai Qingqian said indifferently, "Just a few words. I'll leave after that." Dongxing Hanguang and Dongxing Wudi's faces changed at the same time. She went up the mountain but didn't enter the door, and didn't give any explanation. This was enough to show that even if Bai Qingqian took the initiative to go up the mountain this time, it was not because she wanted to, but because she had to. She hadn't come back for more than 10 years. Now even if she came back, she was unwilling to enter the door. This was no longer a problem that could be explained by the knot in her heart. This was resentment, the most naked, resolute, and helpless resentment. A strong look of pain flashed in Dongxing Hanguang's eyes. He opened his mouth and murmured to himself, "Let's go in first. It's cold outside." At this moment, the old master was no longer the once all-powerful director of the decision-making committee, nor was he the old patriarch of the Dongxing clan. He was the most ordinary old man, guilty, helpless, and painful, but he didn't know how to be forgiven. Perhaps, he couldn't forgive her. "I could have gone in." Bai Qingqian gently raised the corner of her mouth. She was still so noble and graceful, but her smile was full of a kind of chilling coldness. "A week ago." Dongxing Hanguang's mouth twitched, and he stood where he was in a daze. Even his hand holding the umbrella was slightly trembling. "A week ago. That was the time when Li Tianlan came here." "Did anyone inform me when you picked him up from Huading? Where were you when he was seriously injured in Huading? Where were you when he was targeted in the Sky Academy?" "Yes, you were all on the mountain, standing so high. The scenery is very good, isn't it? Every word was heart-wrenching. Bai Qingxian's expression grew colder, with a kind of deep-rooted hatred. Qingxian, Dongqing Wudi opened his mouth with a bitter smile. As soon as he called out her name, Bai Qingxian had directly interrupted him. Shut up. She looked coldly at Dongqing Wudi and then at Dongqing Hanguang, saying with a disdainful face, the god of massacre family? Military giant? Are you men? Ahem, ahem, ahem. In the wind and rain, her body trembled slightly, and she violently coughed. Let's talk inside. Dongqing Hanguang continued to speak, and his tone was weak, almost pleading. Bai Qingxian smiled coldly. She took a deep breath and said calmly, when I came out of here more than 10 years ago, I told myself that I was still the daughter-in-law of the Dongqing clan. I would fulfill the responsibilities and obligations of this identity, and my ashes could also be buried with Wudi. But as long as I am alive, I will never step into this door. If I break this oath, I am willing to be struck by lightning and die. Resolute, mournful, and without the slightest leeway. As soon as she said this, everyone's expression changed dramatically. Bai Yuming looked at her aunt in disbelief. It was not until this moment that she realized that the secret that her aunt and the Dongqing clan had hidden for many years seemed to be more serious than she had imagined. If she took one step into the door, she would be willing to be struck by lightning and die. How desperate must a woman be to make such a vicious oath? Thunder rolled across the sky. Bai Qingxian took a step forward and walked directly out of the umbrella in Su Chu's hand. The cold rain fell on her, wetting her body and pale cheeks. She looked up at the gloomy sky. Thunder rumbled across the sky. Bai Qingxian suddenly smiled, desolate and brilliant. She looked at Dongqing Hanguang in front of her and said word by word, "It's thunder. Are you so eager for me to die?" Dongqing Hanguang staggered back a step, his face pale, and said painfully, "I'm sorry, the Dongqing clan is sorry to you." Bai Qingxian smiled tremblingly and suddenly said calmly, "The Dongqing clan has owed me for many years." "Old master, don't you think so?" Dongqing Hanguang nodded, his face pale. "Okay." Bai Qingxian said, "You owe me for so many years. Today you pay it back." Su Chu is going to enter the Sky Academy as a student. Isn't there one less instructor for the actual combat lesson in the Sky Academy? I think Yuming is very suitable. Dongqing Wudi, who was as bitter as his father, frowned and said subconsciously, "Qingxian, do you want to?" "I don't want to." Bai Qingxian glanced at him and said coldly, "I'm doing it. I have to do it. I know you care about Tianlan. He's my son-in-law. I know what to do. Now he's your son-in-law. He's only your son-in-law, not mine." Bai Qingxian's cold eyes fell directly on Dongqing Wudi. Dongqing Wudi's heart suddenly sank. The last time he saw his wife's eyes like this, she hadn't said a word to him for several years. This time, "I'll do my best," Dongqing Hanguang finally said in a hoarse voice. Bai Qingxian nodded and turned to get into the Audi. Bai Yuming and Su Chu got in the car at the same time. When the car turned around and left, the only female provincial leader in Jianghu state rolled down the window again and said calmly, "When Tianlan married my daughter, I came back to attend the wedding. This mountain is too much of an eyesore. I don't like it." The Audi went down the mountain in the wind and rain and went away. Dongqing Hanguang stood there with an umbrella and didn't move for a long time. "Dad," Dongqing Wudi cried. The marshal of Jianghu state was ruthless when facing the enemy, but he was a complete mess when dealing with his own family affairs. He didn't have the demeanor of a god of slaughter at all. "Say no more." Dongqing Hanguang took a deep breath and said calmly, "Do as Qingxian said. Su Chu's matter is easy. You have to fight for the position of the leader of the actual combat course for the girl of the Bai family." Dongqing Wudi nodded, then shook his head with a wry smile. This was the most difficult thing to do. Zhuanghuayang state was declining. Kunlun city was ambitious in the composition of this year's Sky Academy. Lu Xiaowei and Yang Mengjiang were both forcibly inserted by Kunlun City in order to take the leadership of the Sky Academy after Zhuang Huayang retired. But now Lu Xiaowei was dead and Yang Mengjiang disappeared mysteriously. Kunlun City's influence in the Sky Academy had suffered heavy losses. In the next period of time, the personnel changes in the Sky Academy were bound to be the focus of the special warfare system. Tribulation had not adapted to Lu Xiaowei's position, and now it was very likely that he would be further in charge of the political department. The Wang family of Beihai would definitely get the position of deputy director of teaching left by Tribulation. This was part of the deal. As for Yang Mengjiang's position, if Kunlun City let go again, Gu Yunxia's strength would be greatly damaged, and her voice in the Sky Academy would be even weaker. How could it be easy to take Yang Mengjiang's position from Kunlun City? A phone suddenly rang. Dongqing Wudi picked up the phone and listened for a while. Then his eyes narrowed. He thought for a while and said softly, "Dad, it's little Five." The master of Samsara Palace suddenly issued a letter of challenge to Kunlun City. On June 15th, she will fight with Gu Xingyun in the Sky Academy to the death. Sai City also took action. Situ Tsangyue has made an appointment to fight with Gu Qianxuan. The place has not been decided yet, but it will also be a fight to the death. Little Five was Dongqing Wuchou, who ranked 5th in Dongqing Wudi's generation. Now he was the minister of the 2nd Department of the General Staff Headquarters of Jianghu State, which was the legendary military intelligence department. Naturally, the news he got was the most accurate and fast. Dongqing Hanguang, who was a little lost, froze for a moment, and then instinctively narrowed his eyes. The thing about Bai Yuming, this is an opportunity. He was silent for a while before he slowly opened his mouth. Dongqing Wudi was stunned. He understood what Dongqing Hanguang meant, but he couldn't believe it. Dad, as the god of war of Zhongzhou State, Gu Xingyun doesn't even have the courage to fight with the master of Samsara Palace? Of course he has the courage to fight. But does he dare to fight to the death? Does Zhongzhou State dare? Chapter 119. There was an autumn pond on Mount Dibbing. It was called a pond, but in fact, it was a river winding down from the mountainside, with a length of 6 or 7 kilometers. The autumn pond was located in a low terrain with a radius of 100 meters in the middle of the river. The water was clear, just like a treasure pond. The autumn pond was not big, but it had its own scenery in 4 seasons. It was gentle and beautiful. When everything was revived, the clear water flowed, and the ripples in the pond were turbulent. The green mountains, white clouds, and green trees were clearly reflected in the water. The gentle wind blew with sweet moisture. It was picturesque and beautiful. It could make immortals forget their worries and teach mortals to forget their customs. Summer River and Autumn Pond. This was a private scenery that belonged only to Mount Dibbing and the Wang family of Beihai. At first glance, it might not be amazing, but when looking back, people were already immersed in it. Lin Fengting liked this kind of scenery very much. He was about to reach the age of knowing his destiny, and he had been traveling all his life, either by himself or with his wife and children. When a person had peerless martial arts but no ambition, he just wanted to live an incognito life and had endless money to spend. He could really live a comfortable life however he wanted. In the past few decades, Lin Fengting had traveled around the world. He had seen too many enchanting sceneries of verdant hills and limpid waters. He had seen too many magnificent spectacles of blooming flowers. He had seen too many magnificent scenes. To enter the fire-flaming realm, he went straight to the polar region. To enter the invincible realm, he climbed Mount Everest alone. His life was really too full and rich, leisurely and wonderful. But no matter how many places he had been to, in his heart, in front of him, Mount Dibbing, was the most worry-free pool. The lake and the mountain were beautiful, and the water was hazy. This situation and this scenery were the most unique and natural. I really don't want to leave. I've been sitting here for a day, and I even forgot the way home. Lin Fengting sat quietly on the green and soft grass and sighed softly. His tone was soft, with a trace of imperceptible sadness. Then stay here. Wang Tianzong sat beside Lin Fengting and said with a chuckle, you can choose any palace on Mount Dibing, even if you want the Sword Emperor Palace where I live. But you have to wait for them to repair it. Lin Fengting turned his head and glanced at him. He put aside the fishing rod in his hand and let the fish that had bitten the hook struggle to escape under the water. He took out a cigarette and handed it to Wang Tianzong. He shook his head and said, if I really live in Mount Dibing, I'm afraid I can't see any scenery. There's always time. Wang Tianzong said seriously, it's not a big deal, and you don't need to do anything about it. You can live a stable life now. If you want, how about hanging the title of Lord Equal in the Wang family of Beihai? Your order is my order for everything in the Wang family of Beihai. He stood side by side with Sword Emperor in the Wang family of Beihai. Such an honor was simply supreme. Not to mention others, even among all the invincible realm experts in the dark world, there were few who could refuse this condition. Lin Fengting shook his head and said calmly, forget it. I'm not the kind of person who can sit still. I don't want to participate in your affairs. It's exhausting. How can it be as refreshing as me to do whatever I want? Wang Tianzong sighed softly and didn't say much. When the Li family was destroyed, Lin Fengting, who was of the same origin as the Li family, didn't stand up. Instead, he let the martial arts force founded by the ancestors of the Lin family disappear bit by bit. With such a mentality, the other party obviously made up his mind not to participate in the game of the dark world. If he insisted too much, what good would it do? Wang Tianzong was a little lost in thought. Over the past 500 years, the Wang family of Beihai and Zhuanyuantai of Kunlun had produced 9 successive generations of invincible realm experts. But no one knew that the Lin family where Lin Fengting was also produced 9 successive generations of invincible realm experts. In the shining years of glory and honor, the Wang family of Beihai. In Zhuanyuantai of Kunlun, every invincible realm expert was famous in the world. But what about the invincible realm experts of the Lin family? They traveled all day long and lived in seclusion. No matter how the outside world changed, they remained motionless. 9-generation invincible realm experts. Except for their ancestors, no one else entered the human world. They came and went quietly. No matter how time went by, no matter how the wind and clouds surged. What kind of transcendent elegance was this? Wang Tianzong lit a cigarette, shook his head, and said, where are you going next? Go back to Europe and wander around. Chushua wants to go to the Vatican. She said she wanted to see the headquarters of the Vatican. I may take her there. Lin Fengting said casually with the cigarette but in his mouth. To the Vatican? Wang Tianzong said with a playful smile, you caused a lot of trouble there in the past few years, didn't you? I heard that their Pope has issued an arrest warrant. Arsis has been chasing you for several days, but you still managed to escape. The news from Italy is vague, but I guess it's you. How do you know? Lin Fengting looked embarrassed. There was really nothing glorious about it. Besides, it had been 5 or 6 years, and he almost forgot it. You sold the Tao Te Ching in front of the Apostolic Palace. And you set up a stall to tell people's fortunes. Who else could it be except you? No wonder the Pope denounced you as a heretic. And how many heretics in the world can Arsis not catch up with? Saint Arsis. Saint War Angel of the Vatican, ranked second on the world divine list, second only to the Sword Emperor Wang Tianzong. The representative of the Vatican's force chased him for several days and finally failed to catch up with him. Wang Tianzong casually thought about it and knew it was Lin Fengting by elimination. Ahem. Lin Fengting coughed and suddenly looked around. This handsome middle-aged man suddenly had a trace of wretchedness. He said with a sneaky smile, I tell you, don't sell me out. That bastard chased me for 3 days and almost chased me out of the border of Italy. Later, I went to the Vatican again and beat him up when he was not paying attention. Huh, cool. Wang Tianzong's mouth twitched. He didn't know this news. Not to mention the strength of Lin Fengting and Arsis, Lin Fengting dared to go deep into the Vatican to beat Arsis, which showed that Lin Fengting was lawless and did whatever he wanted. And the Vatican naturally wouldn't publicize this matter. It was not a good thing for their Saint War Angel to be beaten up. Prepare a plane ticket for me. I'll leave tonight. I'll go to Yuzhou first, then the border, and then back. Lin Fengting said lazily, playing with the fishing rod in his hand. I thought you would go to Huading. Wang Tianzong turned his head and took a deep look at Lin Fengting, chuckling. Lin Fengting was silent for a while and then shook his head. I wanted to see the descendant of the Li family of this generation, but I gave up after thinking about it. I didn't want to enter the secular world. What's the use of going there? I don't want to, so I won't give him any hope. Wang Tianzong thought for a while and said, the sword you owe the Li family, I'll pay it back when the time is right. Lin Fengting shook his head and repeated Li Tianlan's name twice. Suddenly, he said, how are you going to deal with Li Tianlan? I gave him a set of immortality. Wang Tianzong said expressionlessly, even if the Wang family owes the Li family too much, the immortality has been paid off. From now on, we don't owe each other anything. If we become enemies in the future, we'll kill him. Lin Fengting moved the corner of his mouth and tentatively said, with Yuetong by his side, in the future. Wang Tianzong's expression didn't change. He just quietly looked at the water of the where-forgotten pool in front of him. At this moment, he seemed to be far away from Lin Fengting. He was no longer Lin Fengting's childhood friend, but the Sword Emperor of Jianghu State, who ranked on the divine list. Ambitious. A word suddenly appeared in Lin Fengting's mind, and his eyes became a little dispirited. He stretched out his hand and pointed downstream, whispering, the hot spring at the foot of the mountain is still there, right? The Xia River of Mount Dibing flowed around the mountain. The autumn pond in front of them made people forget their worries. The area at the end of the downstream was natural geothermal. The Wang family changed a medium-sized hot spring there, which was not open to the public. It was only used occasionally during private leisure time. It's still there. Wang Tianzong's expression softened a little and he whispered. In fact, standing here, the most impressive thing for me is when I was a child. Lin Fengting said softly, looking absent-minded and soft, I was 9 years old that year. Second brother was 11, and you were 12, right? When my father took me to Mount Dibing for the first time, he said that he would introduce 2 good brothers to me. Uncle Wang took you to pick us up, and then we picked up Uncle Li together. At that time, the 3 brothers were soaking in the hot spring below, and we peed in the water above. Oh, that should be the last time the 3 of them and the 3 of us got together, right? Later, I saw second brother alone, and I also saw you alone, but we didn't get together. Later, second brother committed treason and died at the border, until now. His voice lowered and finally became silent. How many years has it been? Wang Tianzong tightly pursed his lips and said nothing. I always remember the 3 words good brother. Lin Fengting paused and finally said, big brother. When Wang Tianzong was about to speak, the phone suddenly rang. He answered the phone and said indifferently, hello. Lin Fengting looked at him quietly. Until he hung up the phone and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, he said calmly, what's the matter? There's a very interesting thing. Wang Tianzong said softly, on June 15th, the master of Samsara Palace challenged Gu Xingyun in the Sky Academy to a life-and-death battle. Situ Tsongyue also joined in the fun and challenged Gu Qianchuan. Interesting. This year's special warfare system and the dark world are getting more and more interesting. Lin Fengting's eyes lit up slightly, and then he frowned and said, has the master of Samsara Palace recovered from her injury? June 15th? It's estimated that it's difficult for her to fully recover in more than a month. Wang Tianzong was silent and did not speak. His eyes kept flickering, and he looked thoughtful. What do you think? Lin Fengting waited for a while and continued to ask. He lived in seclusion and knew far less about the general trend of Jianghu State and the dark world than Wang Tianzong, who was involved in the game. But he had to pay special attention to the master of Samsara Palace. The master of Samsara Palace could pour out the 24 moves of sword, the core unique skill of Zhuanyuantai of Kunlun. What was the relationship between her and the Li family? I don't know. Huading has been a little busy recently. Maybe she wanted to stand up for Li Tianlan, but not entirely. The divine list would be re-ranked next year. She challenged Gu Xingyun to increase her ranking. The higher her ranking was, the more samsara would gain after destroying Night Spirit. Otherwise, who would be willing to destroy Night Spirit only to benefit others in the end after all the hard work? From the perspective of Jianghu State, the academics may secretly instigate the decisive battle between Samsara and Gu Xingyun. Gu Xingyun dares to fight, but he will not easily fight to the death. The inside story behind the upcoming battle is complicated. Wang Tianzong sighed softly. Even though he was the Sword Emperor of Jianghu State, it was difficult for him to grasp the specific trend of the general trend until the truth came to light. The academics secretly instigated? The master of Samsara Palace is not stupid. She is seriously injured. Does she really think that Gu Xingyun, the fourth on the divine list, is just a decoration? Lin Fengting frowned subconsciously. Wang Tianzong glanced at him and chuckled. Don't forget that her surname used to be Gu. Her surname used to be Gu, but she mastered the unique skill of the Li family. Lin Fengting's eyes lit up. I'm going to Huading to watch the fun. I don't know how many overseas Invincible Realm experts want to watch the battle. Do you want to go and have a look? It's okay to stay for one more month, right? Wang Tianzong looked at Lin Fengting and said with a smile. Okay. Lin Fengting hesitated for a while and finally said excitedly, you go and arrange it first. I'll wait for you at the foot of the mountain. Wang Tianzong nodded and took a step forward. Then he disappeared instantly. Lin Fengting sat there and smoked a cigarette quietly. When it was almost time, he picked up the fishing rod and shook it casually. There was no fish on the hook. But the water of the entire Carefree pool rose with the movement of his hand. A large amount of water rushed to the sky dozens of meters high in the twinkling of an eye, like a water curtain. The water curtain was clear and sparkling in the sunlight. Lin Fengting's figure stayed in the water curtain for a while and then disappeared in an instant. The water in the pool suddenly fell, splashing, and the rumbling sound echoed in the mountains. A sigh floated in the deafening sound of the water, vague and clear. Chapter 120. Once the course of the Sky Academy began, it would not be stopped because of other things. There were 13 courses, 1 class a day, and 2 classes a month without interruption. At the end of the month, the Academy would draw up the curriculum for the next month and send it to every student on the first day of the month. Because of the different classes, the order of the curriculum was not exactly the same. In a month, after 2 rounds of lessons, it was time for the drill. The maneuver would last 2 days during the first month, and the maneuver would last 3 days during the first month. The content of the maneuver was also varied. It could be an internal confrontation, a timed competition, or a confrontation with other Secret Service agencies outside the Academy, or the elites of various theaters of operations. It was tense, intense, compact, and intense. Every student's fate could be changed after a maneuver. In the past decades of the Sky Academy, because of a seemingly ordinary maneuver, some people amazed the world with a single brilliant feat, while others failed to recover. Such examples could be found everywhere. In the Dark World and the Special Warfare System, which were outside the law and morality, there were ups and downs. Behind the winner was not only honor and disgrace, but also endless blood and despair. This was the case for the regular drill once a month, and even more so for the major drill once every 3 months. The major maneuver was different from ordinary competitions. The ranking of each maneuver would be recorded in the students' files. The scale of this maneuver did not have to be large. The reason why it was called a major maneuver was that it involved the most important turning point for many students in the next 3 years, class assignment. In the big maneuver held once every 3 months, the top 50 students in the whole school would enter the top class led by Zhuang Huayang himself. Not to mention the principal's personal attention and occasional teaching, the 13 tutors of this class were the leaders of each subject group, which was the most valuable part of this class. In all the past major maneuvers, some people advanced and some people retreated. The winner did not dare to slack off and strived for the top, while the loser did not dare to give up and gritted his teeth to catch up. Competition. This was the core word of the Sky Academy and the everlasting atmosphere. After the actual combat class, Zhuang Huayang personally sent Li Tianlan back to the dormitory. He once said that in the Sky Academy, every injury could lead to the death of a genius or the disappearance of a genius. In such a high-intensity competitive atmosphere, talent and background were all fake. Only desperate efforts were real. After entering the Sky Academy, it might not end well if one worked hard, but if one didn't work hard, he would definitely not end well. Li Tianlan had wind and thunder veins. He had the exquisite bone. He had the heart of a heavenly king. There was a supreme inheritance. But none of that mattered here. Risking his life was the most important thing. After the ups and downs, he returned to the Sky Academy. With the end of the actual combat lesson, his mind seemed to be completely immersed in the Sky Academy. For 3 consecutive days. Interrogation meditation course. Li Tianlan got the first place and was rewarded with 10 credits. Information collection and analysis. Li Tianlan successfully passed the passing line and was rewarded with 1 credit. Firearms control course. Li Tianlan failed, so 2 credits were deducted. The news of Yang Mingjiang's mysterious disappearance in Gu Yunxia's office spread throughout the Sky Academy. Li Tianlan didn't think much about it and just immersed himself in his own world. The battle between the master of Samsara Palace and Gu Xingyan shook the whole dark world. Li Tianlan contacted Qin Weibai immediately. Qin Weibai, who looked much better, told Li Tianlan confidently that even if the master of Samsara Palace could not defeat Gu Xingyan, at least she would not lose. As for Situ Cangyue's challenge to Gu Qianchuan, Li Tianlan didn't ask at all. An expert on the divine list, even the last one on the divine list, had nothing to worry about when dealing with Gu Qianchuan, an invincible realm expert who could not even get on the holy list. He didn't want to. Li Tianlan didn't want to think about anything. After the actual combat course, Yang Mingjiang's condescending kick, Gu Yunxia's gloomy and resentful eyes, Wang Yuedong's pale and haggard face, Ning Qiansheng, Li Beidian, Yu Qinyan, and others who risked their lives. All these made him completely immersed in the Sky Academy. Samsara, Sai City, Kunlun City, the Wang family of Beihai, the general trend of Zhongzhou State, everything seemed to be leaving him. He didn't want to do anything anymore. With his strength, he couldn't do anything. From the border to Huading, facing the first contact with the prosperous Zhongzhou State, Li Tianlan's heart was complicated like a spider web. He wanted to grasp the root of the problem at once, but all kinds of obstacles entangled him, making it difficult for him to move. Until now, everything in his heart had completely calmed down. It seemed that everyone was right. Now, what he needed most was to grow. He could only grow. The first sentence of the invincible manual of the map of God of War was full of a kind of arrogance and arrogance. Only look at yourself, not the world. In the prosperous times, recalling this sentence again, Li Tianlan's heart was filled with mixed feelings, and his feelings became deeper. He began to make his own plan to plan the future of the East Emperor Palace. Samsara, Sai City, Dongqing clan, and the academics might give him some help in the future, but only the East Emperor Palace was his real and complete foundation. Although this foundation was shallow, it was the most suitable for him now. Among the 13 courses in the Sky Academy, except for the actual combat course, the other courses were 4 hours in the morning and 4 hours in the afternoon. The time after class was completely free. Li Tianlan's schedule according to this period could be said to be the limit. He got up at 3 in the morning and practiced the Buddhist incantation of 9 words of tribulation at 5:30. He practiced the 24 moves of sword from 5:30 to 7. He had breakfast. He had classes. He had lunch for half an hour. He meditated from 12 to 2 at noon. He had classes in the afternoon. He had dinner at 6:30 and went to the training ground. He spent an hour learning to shoot and another hour learning to drive. He had a break from 8:30 to 9:30. He accompanied Wang Yuetong, chatted with Li Beidian and Ning Qiansheng, and talked about their future development of the East Emperor Palace. He meditated from 10 to 1 o'clock. Then he rested for 2 hours. He got up and practiced the shadow formula over and over again. This was most of his life for the next 3 years. Of course, he did not go out to perform tasks, exercises, and holidays. Li Tianlan would not deliberately pursue perfection. He allowed his plan to deviate, but he also had a bottom line in his heart, that was, the deviation could not exceed half an hour. So after the actual combat course, Li Tianlan suddenly became extremely busy. After Wang Yuetong slept for a whole day, she got up and took the potion given to her by the enchantress. Basically, she was fine. She was just overexhausted, and her injury was not serious. Li Tianlan was seriously injured, but under the stimulation of a whole set of immortality potions, his so-called serious injury was almost recovering every minute and second. This made him look a little pale, but he was always energetic. He had a plan and a goal. Personally, his goal was to reach the pseudo-invincible realm of the Qi-controlling realm by the end of this year after thoroughly understanding the Buddhist incantation of 9 words, and then enter the ice-condensing realm. Within 3 years, he would reach the pseudo-invincible realm of the fire-flaming realm and be ready to break through to the thunder-shocking realm at any time. The academic's 10-year plan also needed his speed. In 10 years, it would take 7 years for him to enter the invincible realm from the thunder-shocking realm. He had talent and inheritance, so this time should not be too tight. As for the East Emperor Palace, in 3 years, he also wanted to upgrade the East Emperor Palace, which was already a department-level institution, to an institution not inferior to the Thunder they joined now. This required massive military merits and connections, which were destined to be obtained in countless foreign missions. So, while he was improving his combat capability, he also made requests to Li Beidian, Ning Qiansheng, and the others. Li Beidian and Ning Qiansheng were now in the fire-flaming realm, so he hoped that they could advance 1 level a year. 3 years later, they would surpass the peak of the fire-flaming realm and reach the fulfillment realm. It would be best if they could enter the thunder-shocking realm. As for Wang Yuetong, Li Tianlan's requirements for her were similar to Li Beidian's. Although he did not know how long the little princess of the Wang family of Beihai could stay in the East Emperor Palace, she was his woman. It was always good to improve her strength. Yu Qingyan's martial arts was a standard heterodox method. It was powerful but not orthodox. Li Tianlan was going to consult Yu Donglai in person about her path. The plaque of the dormitory had been sent out of the Sky Academy. Yu Donglai, who had closed Yu's private home cuisine, was personally in charge of his new institution. Li Tianlan asked curiously. It was said that the address Qin Weibai chose for him was in the suburbs. It was a pity that he could not go out for the time being and could not have a look in person. Yi Huayu was Li Beidian's martial niece. This beautiful girl was the kind that made people feel comfortable when they saw her. However, her relationship with Li Beidian was obviously a little complicated. Her growth was all in Li Beidian's hands. Within 3 years, it would not be a problem for Yi Huayu to at least approach the peak of the fire-flaming realm. At the thought of this, Li Tianlan was full of pride and expectation. Although the number of people in the East Emperor Palace was small, none of them were useless. They were all elite soldiers. 3 years later, if they could really improve their strength according to the plan, as long as they had enough military merits, they would basically not encounter too much resistance to upgrade to the deputy governor level. A bright future was expected, which also made Li Tianlan more motivated. In the dead of night. In the woods not far from the dormitory area, the wind was whistling. With Li Tianlan as the center, a large amount of air around him was vibrating at a slow and constant speed. On the trees around him, the emerald green leaves were detached from the branches and leaves in the slightly twisted air and flew aimlessly. Li Tianlan stood where he was, motionless. 10 meters away, a shadow identical to Li Tianlan stood opposite him, also motionless. He held the information of the Buddhist incantation of 9 words that tribulation gave him and frowned slightly. The shadow also frowned. It was extremely lifelike. But this was the limit of what Li Tianlan could do now. In a few days, Li Tianlan had reached the basic level of the shadow formula. He could directly release a shadow and exchange positions with the shadow. This benefited from a lot of inspiration and understanding when he sorted out the half of the shadow formula for Wang Xiaoyao. Now his shadow could imitate some of his subtle movements, but that was all. Except that he could switch places with his shadow without anyone noticing, his shadow had no attack power at all. Naturally, it did not have the super explosive power of tribulation. What on earth went wrong? Li Tianlan frowned and thought hard. He tried again and again, and the vibration in the air gradually became faster. But in this way, not only did it not work. Instead, the shadow 10 meters in front of him became fluctuating, as if it was going to disappear. Why do you have to be centered on yourself? Is this the invincible manual's eye, the unique and supreme? A voice suddenly sounded above Li Tianlan. Tribulation appeared silently and slowly floated down in front of Li Tianlan. His whole body almost merged with the surrounding night in an instant. Li Tianlan was not surprised. When he came to the woods for the first time in the middle of the night, tribulation followed him. But these 2 days, seeing his efforts, tribulation had not spoken. Is it wrong? Li Tianlan looked at tribulation and asked seriously. I can't say it's wrong. Tribulation shook his head and said, it's just that the method is wrong. Without waiting for Li Tianlan to understand, he took another step forward. A shadow that was half transparent and only had arms filled with black gas appeared in front of Li Tianlan. Tribulation's body was still standing in front of Li Tianlan, side by side with the shadow. But in Li Tianlan's perception, tribulation had completely disappeared. In front of him, there was only the shadow. Chapter 121. There is another chapter ahead. It was posted a minute ago. Don't miss it. In the chi-controlling realm, the air around you is not your vassal, but a part of your body. In other words, your body is a part of the air. When a sufficiently strong shadow appears, you actually don't exist before you switch positions. Whether it's in the eyes of your enemies or in your own heart, you don't exist. You're just air. Tribulation stood in front of Li Tianlan, but his voice drifted in the sky. To be more precise, when the shadow comes out, you become a domain. When the shadow comes out, you become a domain. The shadow is no longer a part of you, but you become a part of the shadow. You are not the one driving it, but it is the other way around. Tribulation's body seemed to have completely disappeared from Li Tianlan's perception. But in front of Li Tianlan, he and the shadow beside him raised their hands at the same time. A jet-black arm knife stretched out from his cuff. There was also a vague and sharp color on his shadow hand. Li Tianlan's scalp went numb. From the perspective of orthodox martial arts, the Buddhist incantation of 9 words could definitely be regarded as an unorthodox way, or even a crooked way. But the sharpness and treachery in it made everyone's scalp numb. Forbid. Tribulation said softly. In an instant, the air and leaves around Li Tianlan twisted suddenly stopped in midair. As soon as this pseudo-invincible realm was formed, a not dazzling but extremely condensed killing intent rose up and instantly smashed Tribulation's domain. Do you understand? Tribulation asked, if you want to imitate your movements with the shadow formula, you must understand this move of mine well. You should form a domain with your own body, break the domain with killing intent, and reach the peak. Only in this way can you have the strongest shadow and the strongest outbreak. Li Tianlan took a deep breath and said with a bitter smile, after listening to Martial Uncle's words, I have some ideas, but I get nothing. It seems that I understand, but it seems that I don't. Take your time. Tribulation seemed to give a rare smile. Your current progress is very good. We still have time, don't worry. Li Tianlan nodded in silence and did not speak. The deep night spread high in the sky. The night filled the woods, the academy, the magnificent Yangtze River and the sea, as far as the eye could see. 50 meters away. Lin Fengting stood silently on the canopy, drifting with the night wind. He looked more and more elegant and indifferent. Listening to the conversation between Tribulation and Li Tianlan, he chuckled and said, "This shadow is interesting. I don't understand his principle either. Tianzong, he said that his unique skill is the strongest outbreak. What do you think?" The martial arts of the Wang family of Beihai were also famous for their explosive force. Lin Fengting really wanted to see what Wang Tianzong's expression would be when he heard that his unique skill was the strongest explosive force. Wang Tianzong stood beside Lin Fengting and said calmly, "In terms of the instantaneous outbreak, among those in the same realm, his Buddhist incantation of 9 words is indeed the strongest. It's not much worse than the sword of 6 paths of the Wang family of Beihai. He's far from it. It exploded in an instant. For a short period of time. The meaning seemed similar, but it was completely different." "I know what you mean." Lin Fengting smiled and nodded. "But what are the 9 secret words? The Buddhist incantation of 9 words of the Great Soaring Temple?" After 2 days in Huading, he still couldn't resist the temptation of seeing the current successor of the Li family, so he took Wang Tianzong to the Sky Academy. One of them ranked first on the divine list, and the other was an invincible realm expert who could beat up the second on the divine list. Sneaking into the Sky Academy was as easy as walking on flat ground, but it was unlikely that they would be discovered. The two originally wanted to find Li Tianlan directly according to the address they got from the enchantress. But as soon as they approached the residential area, Lin Fengting saw the target. In terms of appearance and figure, Li Tianlan was not very similar to Li Guangtu and Li Honghe in Lin Fengting's impression. But the spirit was exactly the same, so Lin Fengting confirmed his identity at first sight. It's a unique skill he created by himself. It is divided into 9 words: kill, kill, shadow, destroy, flash, split, restrict, defend, and escape. It's really extraordinary. Whether it's the pattern, momentum, or boldness, it has the atmosphere of entering the invincible realm. From the perspective of a killer, the Buddhist incantation of 9 words can be said to be an impeccable unique skill. But I guess it can't be completely perfected until he really enters the invincible realm. Wang Tianzong looked at Tribulation calmly through the night, and the meaning in his eyes was difficult to understand. "You should have seen this person. He used to be called Situ Wanjia, but now he's just Tribulation. He's the Lord of Shadow in the dark world. He's famous." Situ Wanjia. Lin Fengting's eyes were in a trance, and a young man he saw beside Li Guangtu subconsciously emerged in his mind. That handsome and silent young man. "It's him," Lin Fengting sighed softly. "How did he become like this? He's the strongest assassin in Jianghu state and even in the dark world. Why do you have so many emotions?" Wang Tianzong looked helpless. "The strongest assassin?" Lin Fengting chuckled and said, "I believe he's the strongest assassin in Jianghu state, but not in the dark world, right? Who's the number 1 killer in the dark world now?" Although the pronunciation is similar to Tribulation, it's not the same person. It seems that his code name is Evil. Right? He's on the holy list. He's the strongest assassin in the dark world today. Wang Tianzong smiled and didn't comment. "Let's take a closer look. Let's see how the little guy who followed my second brother back then is, and how my second brother's son is." Lin Fengting smiled and took a step forward. Dozens of meters away. Li Tianlan didn't notice it. Tribulation, who was talking to Li Tianlan, suddenly turned around. His eyes were like lightning, shooting straight at Lin Fengting. There was nothing in his sight. Tribulation's eyes suddenly became sharper. He instinctively protected Li Tianlan behind him and took a step forward. 4 almost invisible shadows instantly appeared in 4 directions: east, west, south, and north. His eyes narrowed, and his deep and hoarse voice, like that of death, echoed in the jungle in an instant, layer upon layer. "Stop." 2 arm knives stretched out directly from his cuffs. before he finished a word. The forest in the courtyard hundreds of meters away suddenly became still. The sound of the wind disappeared. The forest that was originally full of vitality suddenly seemed to have turned into a lifelike but extremely pale landscape painting. Only the pure dark and cold killing intent was surging. Everything happened in an instant. In less than half a second, the arm knives in Tribulation's hands had suddenly sounded, and he slashed forward. Destroy. Destroy the mortals. Destroy the thunder invincible. Destroy all the gods and Buddhas. The air within a radius of hundreds of meters twisted crazily like never before. The forest, which was as quiet as a painting half a second ago, was instantly torn apart under the extreme killing intent. The air overlapped and spread suddenly. Tribulation had arm knives in his hands. The four shadows that occupied the four directions also had arm knives in their hands. As Tribulation moved, the arm knives in his hands did not move, but the arm knives in the hands of the four shadows were instantly thrown out. The target was clear, and they rushed directly to Lin Fengding's position. There was no wind or rain. Only the pure and violent killing intent rushed to Lin Fengding in the extremely twisted air, which seemed slow but was actually fast. The sky was high, and the ocean was vast. It was the most fierce and resolute killing intent that filled the world. It was complete madness. The twisted air whistled past. In an instant, with Tribulation as the center, the forest within a radius of hundreds of meters collapsed. Countless broken trunks and leaves were mixed in the air and turned into powder. There was a large dazzling blank space in the forest. Tribulation's face was pale. This move obviously consumed a lot of his energy, but he still stood where he was and observed around motionlessly. His eyes grew colder and colder. It was calm in the forest. Tribulation narrowed his eyes and pulled Li Tianlan. A shadow appeared in his original position without any warning, and he had already taken Li Tianlan hundreds of meters away. The extremely twisted air finally eased a little. Lin Fengding and Wang Tianzong appeared quietly hundreds of meters away. They looked at each other and saw solemnity and seriousness in each other's eyes. This man, Lin Fengding, was silent for a while and finally said, "Is he really the teenager who followed my second brother? Is he Situ Cangyu's younger brother?" Wang Tianzong nodded silently. He knew the title of the strongest assassin in Jianghu state, but the power of the move just now was somewhat beyond his expectation. Obviously, this unusual madman had been one step closer to this mysterious realm after failing to break through to the invincible realm. How far was he from the real invincible realm? In front of him was the end of the chi-controlling realm. Was there really a way? I didn't expect it. I didn't expect it. Lin Fengding took a deep breath and shook his head. There was a misunderstanding tonight. Who could have thought that the brat was so strong? If Tribulation enters the invincible realm in the future, given time, his final achievement may not be lower than yours and mine. This brat. He has no chance. Wang Tianzong said calmly. What? Lin Fengding looked stunned. Tribulation, Wang Tianzong thought for a while and said, he seems to be 38 years old this year. If he takes the ordinary path, he may have a chance to fight for the last time. But from the chi-controlling realm to the invincible realm, there is not enough time. There may not be a way for him to go. Lin Fengding suddenly fell silent. 38 years old. Entering the invincible realm directly from the chi-controlling realm. This was an unprecedented road of martial arts. It was not impossible to succeed. But did Tribulation really have time? The peak state of a martial artist was before the age of 40. Most of the real geniuses could enter the thunder-shocking realm before the age of 40. Among these geniuses, there were a few really amazing people who could enter the invincible realm at the age of 36 or 37. After the age of 40, the physical state might be maintained for a long time. But at this age, it was almost impossible to move forward on martial arts, even half a step. Tribulation was 38 years old. If he could not enter the invincible realm in the remaining 2 years, the corners of Lin Fengding's mouth moved. He thought of the quiet and handsome young man who followed his second brother many years ago. Thinking of the shocking blow with soaring murderous intent tonight, he felt a little suffocated for no reason. If such a person failed, it seemed to be a sad song for martial arts and all the assassins in the dark world, right? Is there no other way? Lin Fengting asked subconsciously. Yes. Wang Tianzong said calmly, but it's almost the same as nothing. And even if there are conditions, the hope of his success will not be too big. What conditions? Lin Fengting raised his eyebrows and asked. That's something like a legend. The martial arts stone, also known as the Wall of Luck. Wang Tianzong shook his head and looked at Lin Fengting, who looked confused as if he was listening to a book from heaven. He continued, it's also called the Imperial Jade Seal. Chapter 122. For the first time, Li Tianlan really saw the speed of tribulation, the most powerful assassin in Jianghu state. As the only person with double wind veins in hundreds of years, and his martial arts was an unprecedented road from the chi-controlling realm to the invincible realm, coupled with the shadow formula, tribulation was simply a super assassin who specialized in breaking the balance. In the dark, he took Li Tianlan forward and backward, full of a sense of extreme violence and swiftness. The wind and the clouds were gone, like a white colt passing through a crack. Being pulled back by tribulation, Li Tianlan was in a trance and even felt suffocated. That was not the deterrence brought by absolute power, but the oppression caused by extreme speed. It was clear and obvious, making people nervous almost instinctively. Some things in front of him seemed to have completely disappeared. In the woods. In the night. Even tribulation had turned into a shadow of nothingness and then disappeared without a trace. There was only the sound of the fierce wind whistling wildly all over the world. He seemed to stand still, but the fierce and violent wind kept whistling in his ears, suppressing all his perceptions. Li Tianlan's consciousness was clearer than ever, but his perception was blurred. He couldn't tell forward or backward, and he couldn't tell the passage of time. The strong wind blew, and the branches and leaves in the woods wilted. There seemed to be a storm sweeping through the whole woods, like a knife chopping forward. All the obstacles were swept into the sky in the storm, and then smashed to pieces. There seemed to be a flash of light in front of him, and then it became dark again. The world was silent. The sound of the wind suddenly disappeared. Li Tianlan suddenly came to his senses in an extreme trance, only to find that he was standing outside the dormitory. Martial uncle, Li Tianlan had already guessed all this, so he didn't feel puzzled and shouted subconsciously. It's okay. Tribulation's voice seemed to be a little weak, and the hoarseness and low in his tone faded a little. Let's call it a night. Sleep more and continue tomorrow. Li Tianlan finally couldn't help his curiosity and took the initiative to ask, Martial uncle, was someone watching us in the dark just now? Li Tianlan now had all the three most precious constitutions in the dark world. Although his martial arts had been recultivated, his perception had not regressed. He had a sensitivity far beyond his current realm to everything around him. But even so, Li Tianlan didn't notice anything unusual just now. This could only mean that the realm of the person in the dark was far beyond his current imagination. Invincible realm? Invincible in the invincible realm? Two people. After a moment of silence, Tribulation said faintly, but they don't mean us any harm. At least in the Sky Academy, they have no intention of attacking us. But I can't stay in that place for too long. Next time, I'll change to another place. I'll find an empty training ground and continue practicing the 9 words incantation. Li Tianlan nodded but showed it to the shadow. Tribulation's figure had disappeared without a trace. Li Tianlan swiped his card and entered the room. Looking at his watch, he found it was nearly 5:00 in the morning. He hesitated for a moment and finally walked into the bedroom. A faint fragrance floated in the bedroom, stirring one's mind. Wang Yuetong kicked the quilt again. Her fair and tender body seemed to be suffused with an enchanting luster in the dark. It was indistinct, but the visual impact was great. Sleep naked. This was not Wang Yuedong's habit, but it was Li Tianlan's request. Whether it was in front of Qin Weibai or Wang Yuetong, Li Tianlan seemed to be domineering in bed, which made the two goddesses feel wronged and enjoyed at the same time. Now he was living with Wang Yuetong openly. Every night after they went to bed, he would strip the little princess naked and hold her in his arms. That feeling was indescribably comfortable. At first, the little princess was not used to it and wanted to disobey. As a result, after Li Tianlan tore 2 sets of expensive sexy silk underwear, she could only let him do as he pleased. But these were nothing. What Wang Yuetong couldn't stand most was that Li Tianlan would strip her naked every night. The two of them would share a quilt and rest on the long pillow that Wang Yuetong deliberately selected, but he would do nothing. Such behavior was really worse than a beast. Whether Li Tianlan had no time or something else, the little princess was not going to accept any explanation from Li Tianlan. So for several days, Wang Yuetong looked at Li Tianlan with more and more resentment and melancholy. Li Tianlan smiled and lowered his head to kiss Wang Yuedong's face. Then he got up and sat on the bed. Instead of resting, he began to meditate. Any martial arts, no matter how unconventional and bizarre it was, in the final analysis, was nothing more than attaching equal importance to realm and unique skills. Now that he had 2 hours less time to practice unique skills, Li Tianlan didn't want to waste it, so he simply used it in meditation as a rest. In 3 years, from the chi-controlling realm to the peak of the fire-flaming realm, he had crossed 3 pseudo-invincible realms in a row, and he had thoroughly grasped the Buddhist incantation of 9 words. This was the goal Li Tianlan set for himself. Once this goal was achieved, he wouldn't have too many opponents under the invincible realm even without entering the thunder-shocking realm. He would also have the formal qualification to play in the general trend of Jianghu state. Time was pressing, and Li Tianlan had to fight desperately. The darkness on the horizon gradually brightened. In extreme concentration, Li Tianlan felt someone kissing him on the face. He opened his eyes and saw Wang Yuedong's beautiful face in front of him. She said with a smile, "Good morning, senior brother. Why are you back so early today?" "I didn't gain much, so I didn't waste time and came back to meditate." Li Tianlan shook his head casually and touched Wang Yuedong's hair. He didn't tell her what he had encountered in the woods not long ago, but calmly said, "Is today the sniping class?" Wang Yuetong nodded, picked up her underwear and put it on. She giggled and said, "Senior brother, don't worry. I have an uncle who is in charge of this class. Even if you fail, I won't deduct your credits. Senior brother is really unlucky. It's easy to play with a gun. I'll teach you another day." Li Tianlan gave a wry smile and nodded. The only thing he hadn't learned since he was a child was to play with a gun. There were many guns in the border camp, but bullets were quite expensive. No matter how much his grandfather wanted him to stand out, he was unwilling to use precious bullets to cultivate his marksmanship. As for blank bullets, they were even rarer than live bullets. Li Tianlan had never seen blank bullets since he was a child. In yesterday's firearms control course, because it was the first class, the course was relatively simple. Instructor Wuxia Xianxia talked about some theories about firearms. For most of the students, these were the same old stuff. After the theory, there was a lot more, mainly pistols and assault rifles. Li Tianlan's results in the practice of these 2 kinds of firearms could be described as a mess. Not only did he fail, but he was also the only one among the 50 students who failed in the firearms control course. The instructor of the firearms control class, Wuxia Xianxia, was also Gu Yunxia's confidant, but he didn't deliberately embarrass Li Tianlan. He just deducted 1 credit from him, and Li Tianlan was willing to deduct it. Wang Yuetong, who won the first place in the firearms control class, also got a reward of 8 credits. It seemed to be a very fair class, and the instructor didn't take any position. This kind of environment was undoubtedly Li Tianlan's favorite. He stood up from the bed, moved his body, and suddenly asked, "Is the headmaster back?" Zhuang Huayang had not come back since he went to Yuzhou a few days ago. Although the news from Yuzhou was not bad for Zhuang Huayang, Li Tianlan always felt a little uneasy if he didn't return to the Sky Academy. He killed Gu Chengjiang. If Zhuang Huayang was involved in this matter, it was definitely not a situation Li Tianlan wanted to see. No. Wang Yuetong whispered, I called second uncle yesterday. Second uncle said that the president held another meeting of the decision-making committee yesterday, specifically for the Sky Academy. There may be some personnel changes in the Sky Academy. He asked you to pay attention to some things. My father was also invited to the meeting of the decision-making committee, but he was too lazy to go, so he declined. Li Tianlan chuckled. There were personnel changes in the Sky Academy, but it was Wang Xiaoyao who asked him to pay attention to some things. This was really interesting. He might be just an ant in Wang Tianzong's eyes. But in Wang Xiaoyao's eyes, he was an out-and-out rival in love. From this point of view, Wang Xiaoyao had more reason to hate him than anyone in the Wang family of Beihai. This reminder might not be in good faith. Let's eat first. Li Tianlan got out of bed and said casually. No matter what the so-called changes in the Sky Academy meant, Li Tianlan didn't intend to think too much about it. These things were not what he could think about now. Even if he had an idea, it wouldn't affect anything. His phone suddenly rang. Li Tianlan was stunned and looked at the number. It turned out to be Dongqing Qiuqi, who hadn't taken the initiative to contact him since he returned to Huading. He narrowed his eyes slightly, picked up the phone, and called Sister Qiuqi with a smile. At the same time, the figure of Zhuang Huayang, the headmaster of the Sky Academy, appeared on the river opposite the academy. Beside him, a young man and a young woman followed in silence. The man was strong and burly, like a giant god, full of pressure. The woman was extremely beautiful, but her every move revealed a kind of indifferent and obvious dangerous aura, looking strange and cold. The first disciple of Jade Pool, giant god Su Chu. Bai Yuming, the nominal disciple of Jade Pool. At the same time, a transfer order from Kunlun City also appeared on the desks of the headmaster's office, the vice headmaster's office, the teaching office, and the political department of the Sky Academy. Yi Fengcheng, the director of the political department of the Sky Academy, was transferred to the director of the Special Operations Bureau of Huading and enjoyed the treatment of a governor. Tribulation, the deputy director of the teaching office of the Sky Academy and the leader of the assassination course group, served as the director of the political department and concurrently served as the leader of the assassination course group. Bai Yuming, the deputy commander of the 2nd Reconnaissance Brigade of the Thunderbolt Battalion of the Border Praetorian Corps, was transferred to the Sky Academy and served as the leader of the actual combat course group. Among the personnel transfers one after another, the last personnel appointment was a great surprise, which also showed that Kunlun City still didn't give up on the Sky Academy. Lu Xiuyuan, the director of the Curtin Intelligence Department of Huading, joined the Sky Academy and served as the deputy director of the teaching office of the Sky Academy. At the same time, as the world's largest country, Jianghu State issued a statement to the entire dark world. June 15. On the day of the battle between the master of Samsara Palace and the governor of Kunlun City, Jianghu State would fully respect the opinions of the two parties, but it also suggested that the two parties should make peace and not go too far. On June 15, the Sky Academy would be open to the public for one day. At that time, representatives of the superpowers were also welcome to come to the Sky Academy to watch the battle, and the government of Jianghu State would send special people to pick them up. Special people would be sent to pick them up. Just this sentence alone showed the euphemistic and strong attitude of Jianghu State. The news that Jianghu State welcomed representatives of the major dark forces to come to the Sky Academy to watch the battle had different meanings in different people's minds. People who didn't understand the situation of Jianghu State instinctively thought that Gu Xingyun, the god of war of Jianghu State and the fourth on the world divine list, had already won the battle. He wanted to increase the influence of the special warfare system of Jianghu State in the dark world by defeating or even killing the master of Samsara Palace. But only people who really understood the delicate situation of Jianghu State knew. Chapter 123. The Sky Academy acted quickly. Li Tianlan and the others had already received the news when they went to the sniper class. At the same time, the personnel transfer of the Sky Academy had also spread throughout the academy. Yi Fengcheng, Tribulation, Lu Xiuyuan, by Yu Ming. From behind these people, it was not difficult to see the advance and retreat and attitude of several groups in Jianghu State in the Sky Academy. The transfer of Tribulation, Yi Fengcheng, and even by Yu Ming was undoubtedly a hidden cooperation between the academics, the giant group, and the Wang family of Beihai. As for Lu Xiuyuan joining the Sky Academy, it was a big move by the Special Warfare Group to try to run the teaching office and help the extremely passive Gu Yunxia to reverse the situation. However, it was obvious that this seemingly wonderful move of Kunlun City was a big bad move. On the surface, Lu Xiuyuan's position could not be changed for the time being. But in private, Li Tianlan's vicious dog joined the teaching office. In a sense, he could already grasp some of the situation in the teaching office through Lu Xiuyuan. Plus, there was Tribulation in the political department. He could be said to be his own people in the real sense, far from the cooperative relationship with Zhuang Huayang. Li Tianlan's foundation in the Sky Academy was finally stabilized. In front of the general trend of Jianghu State and even the Dark World, he was now as small as an ant. But at least in the Sky Academy, Li Tianlan was already qualified to join this game. Lu Xiuyuan, Lu Dongyu, perhaps neither Gu Yunxia nor Gu Yulan would have thought that this pair of father and daughter was equivalent to a magnifying glass that Li Tianlan put beside them. Most of their moves would be secretly observed by Li Tianlan. Now Li Tianlan's foundation was still shallow, but his momentum had begun to take shape. Compared with his shallow foundation, his strength was his biggest shortcoming. The new instructor of the actual combat lesson turned out to be a nominal disciple of Jade Pool. Qiancheng, is he from your border control corps? How about it? Do you understand? On the school bus, Li Beidian, who was sitting in the last row, looked at the announcement on his wristwatch and asked casually. Bai Yu Ming, the first miss of the Bai family, is said to be named by Great Master Wu Wei. She is also one of Great Master Wu Wei's nominal disciples. Hua Qingfeng, the head of the Shadow Sect, who ranks 10th among the top 10 contemporary experts in Jianghu State, seems to have a teacher-student relationship with her. She has a special status in Jade Pool. Although she is only a nominal disciple, her treatment is no different from that of a lineal disciple. She mainly practices floating life sword rain and flying fire meteor sword. She has the strength in the stabilization phase of the thunder-shocking realm. Ning Qianxing opened the window of the school bus, lit a cigarette, and said calmly. There were a few people from other dormitories who were going to class with them. Looking at the smell of smoke in the carriage, no one said anything. The people closest to them quietly stood up and moved further away from them. Ning Qianxing calmly stubbed out the cigarette butt and looked at Li Tianlan, wanting to say something but stopping on second thought. What? Is there anything I can't say? Li Tianlan noticed Ning Qianxing's gaze and said casually with a smile. I'm afraid Bai Yuming has bad intentions this time. Ning Qianxing hesitated and looked at Wang Yuetong. The little princess had put her arm around Li Tianlan's neck, bit his ear, and said, Qianxing is the confidant of Marshal Dongqing, so he can't say some gossip. Bai Yuming is the niece of Bai Qingxian, the current secretary of Guangdong province, and also Marshal Dongqing's niece. In terms of reputation, Bai Yuming can even be as famous as second uncle. Marshal Dongqing and Bai Qingxian seem to have a bad relationship these years, especially Bai Qingxian and the old master of the Dongqing clan. Bai Yuming naturally wants to help her aunt. Old Master Dongqing thinks highly of you, but Bai Qingxian doesn't like you, especially when they are members of the Bai family. The Bai family, the Zhou family, and the Dongqing clan are the backbone of the giant group of Jianghu State. The Dongqing clan values you, but if the Bai family doesn't like you, the Dongqing clan, especially the marshal, will be in a difficult position. Li Tianlan's expression was calm. If that was the case, not only Dongqing Wudi would be in a difficult position, but even he himself would be in a difficult position. Most of the time, the enemy who was not the enemy was the most troublesome. If Bai Yuming really made him uncomfortable, how to fight back without destroying the relationship between the giant group was what Li Tianlan had to consider. After all, no matter what the Dongqing clan was planning, at least they were treating him well now. But it is said that Dongqing Qiuqi and Bai Yuming have a very good relationship. This may be a breakthrough. Wang Yuetong continued to give Li Tianlan ideas. Let's take one step at a time. Things may not be what we think. Li Tianlan smiled lightly, but a trace of contemplation flashed in his eyes. After the master of Samsara Palace and the governor of Sai City respectively challenged two invincible realm experts of Kunlun City, the mobilization of the Sky Academy was quickly announced to the public. The mobilization involved 4 people: Yi Fengcheng, Tribulation, Bai Yuming, and Lu Xiuyuan. Yi Fengcheng represented the Wang family of Beihai. Bai Yuming showed the intention of the giant group to intervene in the Sky Academy. Lu Xiuyuan entered the teaching office, representing Gu Xingyan's face. Even if the god of war of Zhongzhou state compromised, he must need a fig leaf. Lu Xiuyuan was the fig leaf. In secret, the task force that had gone to Huading to investigate the cause of Gu Changjiang's death and Yang Mingjiang's disappearance had secretly withdrawn to Yuzhou. This was a real compromise. It didn't mean that Gu Xingyan gave up investigating the truth. It could only mean that he had no time to care about other things for the time being. For Li Tianlan, the longer the better. Giving Gu Xingyan a fig leaf to cover up his embarrassment was allowed by all parties. Tribulation represented Sai City's right to speak in the Sky Academy. Sai City and the academics were allies, but allies and their own people were two completely different concepts. In this way, in terms of the result, the Wang family of Beihai, the giant group, and Sai City gained something from the deal led by the academics. Only the academics got nothing. How could it be a situation where they got nothing? Li Tianlan was not surprised, but he clearly smelled the aura of power again. Crippling Zhong Xiaofeng, killing Gu Changjiang, besieging Yang Mengjiang, killing Su Yunzong. At this moment, Li Tianlan suddenly realized that he seemed to have inadvertently pushed something forward. The aura of power was so obvious that it had almost reached the point where he was about to hit his face. Obscure, intense, the storm was about to rise, and the mountain rain was about to come. June 15th, there was less than a month and a half left. What on earth was the academics planning? He took a deep breath, and his eyes grew quieter. In the general trend, he was just a nobody, but he inadvertently became a very key pawn. Many things were beyond his control, and he couldn't control them. Should he go with the flow or go against the trend? Go against the trend, Li Tianlan repeated the words silently in his heart and shook his head with a wry smile. How could he have the qualification to go against the trend? Senior brother, what are you thinking about? Wang Yuetong asked softly, looking at Li Tianlan, who had been silent for a long time and thoughtful. I'm thinking about the sniper class later. Li Tianlan came to his senses and said casually with a smile. In the dark world, no matter how brilliant an individual's martial strength was, marksmanship could never be ignored. After entering the fire-flaming realm, ordinary bullets were no longer a threat, but some special firearms with special bullets were still very threatening. 1 or 2 shots might not be a problem, but more shots could also kill one. The Sky Academy divided the firearms course into firearms control and sniper class, which was enough to show the importance the Academy attached to this aspect. Purely comparing these two courses, the importance of sniper class was definitely above that of firearms control. Sniper class emphasized both theory and actual combat, and it was divided into battlefield sniper and special sniper. Wang Tianqing, the instructor of the course, was a master of marksmanship. This instructor, who came from a branch of the Wang family of Beihai, had limited talent in martial arts, and even had no hope of entering the thunder-shocking realm in his life. But in terms of marksmanship, he was a real genius. He was good at making and modifying guns, and he used all kinds of guns wonderfully. He was no worse than Wang Xiaojia, the leader of the firearms course group. It was said that Wang Tianqing was good at using an extremely ferocious-looking heavy sniper. Although he was only in the fire-flaming realm, with a heavy sniper in hand, it was enough to make most of the thunder-shocking realm experts' scalps numb. It was almost his limit to play with guns to this extent. Even in Li Tianlan's heart, even if his level of ordinary firearms was a little worse, he would strive to be the best in the sniper class no matter what. Don't worry, senior brother. It's okay. I'll talk to my uncle later. Even if you fail, your credits won't be deducted, Wang Yuetong said with a smile. It could be seen that she was very familiar with Wang Tianqing. I'll accompany you to the shooting range tonight. I'm very good at sniping. I'll teach you. Li Tianlan glanced at her with a smile and nodded. Although Wang Tianqing was from a branch of the Wang family of Beihai, he was a very important one in the whole Wang family of Beihai. As the chief instructor of sniper tactics in the Wang family of Beihai, he was a well-deserved high-level official in the Wang family of Beihai. Wang Yuedong's marksmanship might even have been taught by Wang Tianqing himself. The school bus arrived at the teaching building. Li Tianlan and the others got off the bus and rushed to the classroom in silence. The classroom of the sniper class was located on the 3rd floor. There were few students around Li Tianlan, who arrived on time. The whole teaching building was quiet. They were about to turn the corner on the 3rd floor. A calm and gentle voice suddenly came from the corner on the 4th floor. Big guy, you're a freshman. You should get to know the situation of the school first, especially in your class. Everyone is the best in the school. Even if you're strong, you should keep a low profile. You can think about other things after you figure out the situation. Do you understand? Yes. A deep, thunderous voice responded, quiet and resolute. The calm and gentle voice continued, in this class, you should pay attention to 2 people. You'd better not provoke them now or in the future. One is Gu Yulan, the direct disciple of the first elder of Kunlun City. The other is Li Tianlan. He's a person that even the headmaster thinks highly of. He's cruel and merciless. If you fall into his hands, no matter who you are, you won't necessarily have a good ending. Li Tianlan subconsciously stood where he was, a little stunned. He didn't expect that he had such a fierce reputation in the Sky Academy now. Footsteps came down from upstairs. A middle-level leader of the teaching office accompanied a man in his 30s and slowly went downstairs. Li Tianlan finally realized the meaning of the word big guy. How could he be a big guy? He was simply a little giant. He was nearly 2 meters tall, with a rock-like appearance and explosive muscles. His momentum was like a mountain and a raging fire, calm and fierce. Li Tianlan's pupils shrank subconsciously. He felt the power that was almost blowing on his face, and his heart became heavy. Is this a freshman? A freshman who just came to report? The teacher who accompanied the big guy also saw Li Tianlan. He suddenly froze and thought of what he had just said. He didn't know whether Li Tianlan heard it or not. He felt a little guilty at first. He stopped and said with a smile, Tianlan, you're here for class. Hello, teacher. Li Tianlan greeted him with a warm smile. The teacher nodded and continued to walk to the classroom with the big guy. The big guy took a step forward, then stopped abruptly. Are you Li Tianlan? He asked, his eyes falling directly on Li Tianlan. It was not a hostile tone, but the natural sense of oppression made Li Tianlan subconsciously straighten his body. I am. Li Tianlan said calmly. The big guy took a deep breath. The next second, he quickly walked down the stairs and walked directly toward Li Tianlan. Li Tianlan's body shook. But the big guy in front of him suddenly knelt on one knee in front of Li Tianlan. His burly body, which was almost 150 kilograms but not fat, knelt down, and the whole corridor seemed to shake with him. The big guy's rock-like face slowly lowered, and he said in a deep voice, Su Chu pays respect to young Master Tianlan. Everyone was dumbfounded. Chapter 124. For the first time, Li Tianlan experienced the so-called feeling of having a tiger's body tremble and a follower kowtow. Pleasure and so on were completely bullsh***. The inexplicable feeling of astonishment was all he felt now. Young Master Tianlan? He seems to be calling me, but when did I become a young master? He was 100% sure that he had never seen this majestic giant before. A person he had never met suddenly knelt in front of him. This feeling was really a little indescribable. Li Tianlan had no time to think. The moment the giant in front of him knelt down, he instinctively squatted down and tried to help him up. But the giant's strength was so great and his attitude was even more resolute. He knelt on one knee with great strength. Li Tianlan was caught off guard and could only follow him to kneel on one knee. "Young master, no." Su Chu's expression changed greatly. He had been kneeling on one knee, but this time he simply put both knees on the ground. He bent down and was about to kowtow to Li Tianlan. The feeling of full strength still impacted everyone. At this moment, Li Tianlan even felt that with Su Chu's strength, this kowtow was enough to smash the entire corridor. "Stop, stop, stop." Li Tianlan finally came to his senses. He pressed Su Chu's big head and said with the corner of his mouth twitching, "Who are you?" They were dumbfounded. Everyone was dumbfounded. The scene in front of them was too strange. Not only Li Tianlan, but also the teacher of the teaching office who Su Chu went to the classroom opened his mouth wide and could not come to his senses for a long time. "I'm Su Chu." Su Chu looked at Li Tianlan and introduced himself seriously, but the content was extremely empty, which made Li Tianlan even more puzzled. "Aunt Bai asked me to take care of you, young master." He grinned. When he didn't smile, Su Chu gave people an extremely tough feeling. But once he smiled, he looked a little simple and honest. "Young master, I can cook, drive, fight, eldest senior brother." Ning Qianxing finally came to his senses in this strange scene. Looking at Su Chu kneeling in front of Li Tianlan, the corner of his mouth twitched and he cried out in disbelief, "Why did you go down the mountain?" "Aunt Bai asked me to come." Su Chu looked at Ning Qianxing with a smile. His eyes were soft, and he slowly stopped smiling. The simple and honest look on him faded quickly, leaving only a kind of fierceness full of surging power. "Aunt Bai?" Hearing this title again, Li Tianlan subconsciously froze and asked tentatively, "Is it Secretary Bai Qingqian?" Su Chu nodded and looked at Li Tianlan with increasingly kind eyes. It was a kind of respect that came from the bottom of his heart, and it could even be said to be pious. Li Tianlan felt his scalp go numb. Wang Yuetong just told him that Bai Qingqian and Old Master Dongqing had a big conflict. Under normal circumstances, Old Master Dongqing liked him. It was good enough that Bai Qingqian didn't vent her anger on him. How could she send this fierce person from Jade Pool to take care of him? Eldest senior brother, then he would be the first disciple of the Jade Pool. His status was absolutely extraordinary. However, judging from Su Chu's current expression, it was clear that he regarded himself as a servant. The word "young master Tianlan" had fully demonstrated his concept of hierarchy. "What else did Secretary Bai say?" Li Tianlan asked. He was a little confused. There were some problems that he couldn't figure out even if he wanted to think about it. For example, the attitude of the Dongqing clan toward him and Bai Qingqian's intention. For Li Tianlan, these were all mysteries. Su Chu wanted to say something but stopped on second thought. Finally, he scratched his big head and said honestly, "Young master, you'd better ask Elder Yuming." Bai Yuming was a nominal disciple of Jade Pool. Her seniority was relatively vague, but now she was the youngest elder of the thunder-shocking realm in Jade Pool. Her status was still very distinguished. He and Bai Yuming came to the Sky Academy at the same time. Bai Qingqian did say something. Before they came to Huading, the extraordinary woman in the political circle of Jianghu State bluntly said that Old Master Dongqing was unfathomable and scheming. She told Li Tianlan to be careful not to fall into a trap or be doomed eternally. These words were absolutely straightforward, but Dongqing Wudi was Su Chu's youngest martial uncle. Now that he was asked to speak ill of his martial uncle's father, he couldn't do it anyway. It was better to let Elder Hades do it. Li Tianlan shook his head and stood up. He took the opportunity to pull Su Chu up and said, "Let's go to class first, or we'll be late." He didn't know what to do with Su Chu. Bai Qingxian's attitude was even weirder than that of the Dongqing clan. No matter how to deal with this matter, he planned to let Dongqing Wudi know first and see what he thought before deciding what to do. Okay. Su Chu nodded, stood up, and stamped his feet casually. He didn't seem to use much strength, but the whole corridor trembled slightly. Li Tianlan and others could even clearly hear the slight trembling of the glass in the nearby classrooms. Such strength was really like lifting up a mountain. The corner of Li Tianlan's eyes twitched. Even if he were blind, he could see that the eldest disciple of Jade Pool in front of him not only had the thunder vein, but also had the kind of thunder vein that had grown to a certain extent. With such divine power, he would be a brave general wherever he was. Li Tianlan looked at the teacher of the teaching office standing beside him with a weird expression, nodded and said, "Sorry to trouble you, teacher. It's my duty. This is all my job." The teacher smiled and said in a more cautious tone. After killing Lu Xiuwei and Su Yunzong, at least in the Sky Academy, Li Tianlan was no longer a nobody. Even the whole East Emperor Palace was notorious. He was a thorn in the eyes of Director Gu Yunxia of the teaching office and a delicious cake in the eyes of the headmaster. Among this year's freshmen, Li Tianlan and his members of East Emperor Palace were one of the people who couldn't be ignored. Even most of the teachers of the academy should maintain some basic respect for such a figure. Li Tianlan watched the teacher of the teaching office leave with Su Chu and subconsciously narrowed his eyes. In that case, the arrival of Bai Yuming is a good thing for senior brother. Wang Yuetong was silent for a while and took the initiative to speak. Too many so-called good things may not really be a good thing, especially these things come too inexplicably. Li Tianlan shook his head and looked at Ning Qianqing. Ning Qianqing's identity was similar to Su Chu's. They were both disciples of Jade Pool. The former was sent to him by Dongqing Wudi, while the latter was sent by Bai Qingxian. What did this couple, who were said to be incompatible with each other, want to do? I don't know much about first senior brother. Seeing Li Tianlan's eyes, Ning Qianqing shook his head slightly. I just heard that he was picked up by the old master of the Bai family many years ago and then sent to Jade Pool. It can be said that he is half a member of the Bai family. He is the pro-disciple of martial uncle master of the sect. He rarely goes down the mountain since he was a child, so he is not famous. How's his strength? Li Tianlan asked softly. Very strong. Ning Qianqing's eyes flickered subconsciously. He should be at the fulfillment of the fire-flaming realm now, but his combat capability is close to that of an expert in the stabilization phase of the thunder-shocking realm. He has the thunder vein and is born with divine power. In terms of pure strength, few people in the whole Jade Pool can be stronger than first senior brother. First senior brother mainly practices prairie burning sword storm and wind and thunder sword. At least in terms of pure strength, his strength can be said to be the peak of the fire-flaming realm. Li Tianlan was suddenly moved. Even Li Beidian and Wang Yuetong changed their expressions slightly. A super expert whose combat capability was close to the stabilization phase of the thunder-shocking realm was a core figure among the teachers of the Sky Academy. Why did such a person come to the Sky Academy as a freshman? There was no shortage of very old freshmen in the Sky Academy. In their class, there was a 35-year-old freshman who was the deputy director of the Special Operations Bureau of a sub-provincial city in the south. These people who held public office came to the Sky Academy to be gilded. Su Chu did not hold any public office, but he was extremely strong. There was no need for such a person to be gilded. Is he really a servant? Let's go to class first. Li Tianlan thought silently for a while, but he couldn't figure out the main point. He shook his head and took the lead to the classroom. Tianlan. Tribulation's deep and hoarse voice suddenly sounded. A shadow suddenly appeared in the corridor. Before the shadow was completely formed, Tribulation had already switched places with the shadow and stood in front of Li Tianlan. Li Tianlan was suddenly stunned. Looking at Tribulation, who looked normal, he raised his eyebrows and said, "Martial uncle, what's the matter? Come with me. I'll take you to see someone." Tribulation spoke slowly in a solemn tone. Teacher by Yuming? But now it's the sniper class. A name came to Li Tianlan's mind, and then he became a little hesitant. It's not her. Tribulation said indifferently, it's Dongqing Chuchi. Don't worry about the course. I've already asked for leave for you. The leave application approved by the headmaster has been in the hands of teacher Wang Tianqing. Li Tianlan was more confused. Dongqing Chuchi just called him in the morning. The sister, who was now a member of the standing committee of Huading, didn't say anything about meeting him. Why did she suddenly come to the Sky Academy? He looked at the other members of the East Emperor Palace. Tribulation's eyes also fell on Wang Yuetong and the others with Li Tianlan. You, Tribulation said slowly, except for the little princess, everyone's leave application has been approved. I guess someone will come to you in a while. He paused for a moment before continuing, take care, everyone. Tribulation turned around and walked to the stairs. Master Tribulation, Li Beidian shouted subconsciously with a puzzled look on his face. Tribulation had already gone downstairs without looking back. Li Tianlan exchanged a look with them and followed Tribulation downstairs. In the corridor, Li Beidian and Ning Qianqing looked at each other and then said, it seems that none of us asked for leave, did we? Obviously, we were asked for leave. Ning Qianqing said expressionlessly. That means we don't have to go to class. Li Tianlan clicked his tongue and said, why do I feel that something big is going to happen? Wang Yuetong stood there quietly, deep in thought. A footstep hurried upstairs. A staff member of the teaching office in military uniform, about 40 years old, ran upstairs. He was slightly stunned when he saw Li Beidian and the others standing in the corridor in a daze. Li Beidian, Ning Qianqing, Yi Huayu, Yu Qingyan. The middle-aged man called several names and then said, are you all here? Yes. Li Beidian said calmly. The middle-aged man breathed a sigh of relief and said with a smile, well, your leave application has been approved by the headmaster. Come with me. Someone wants to see you. Teacher, can you tell us who wants to see us? Ning Qianqing frowned slightly and asked in a low voice. It's Leader Bai of the actual combat lesson. And Leader Enchantress of the camouflage and lurking lesson. Bai Yuming and Enchantress? They were stunned again. Teacher, what about our leave application? Li Beidian asked casually. It's been approved. The middle-aged man's smile remained unchanged. The headmaster personally approved it. How long? Li Baitian's eyes gradually sharpened and he asked closely. The middle-aged man lowered his eyelids and said calmly, about 40 days. It had been less than a week since the Sky Academy officially started, and Zhuang Huayang had approved a leave application for 40 days. What was going on? Teacher, we didn't ask for leave, and we didn't even know about it, but the school gave us a 40-day leave. Shouldn't they give us an explanation? This treatment is really high. I want to ask, who else has the same treatment as our East Emperor Palace? Ning Qianqing took a deep breath and asked straightforwardly. The middle-aged man's smile remained unchanged. He hesitated a little and continued to answer with a smile. In fact, all the 50 people in your class have been approved except for Wang Yuetong, including the freshman who has just arrived and several freshmen who are about to enter the school. Your leave is the same, about 40 days. It's just that the treatment is slightly different. He looked at Li Beidian and Ning Qianqing and said with a meaningful smile, I can guarantee that your treatment is absolutely the best. Enjoy the next 40 days. Chapter 125. After getting out of the teaching building and getting on the school bus, Li Tianlan looked around and found that he had come to Zhuang Huayang's office again. The spring breeze was warm. The birds were singing and the flowers were fragrant. It seemed that only Zhuang Huayang's residence, a place with a bloody atmosphere like the Sky Academy, could be filled with flowers and fragrance all the year round. Obviously, Dongqing Chuchi had chosen this place to meet. Li Tianlan, who had been silent all the way, looked at Tribulation's back and finally couldn't help asking, Martial Uncle, what's going on? Why did the headmaster approve my leave slip? It's not just you. Tribulation paused and let Li Tianlan walk side by side with him. He said slowly, Gu Yulan, Li Beidian, Ning Qiancheng, Lu Dongyu, Su Mai, Fan Haoyu, these people must have gotten leave slips by now. Why? Li Tianlan subconsciously felt a little creepy. These people mentioned by Tribulation were all the best in this year's Sky Academy. They might be in different realms, but none of their real combat capability was lower than the fire-flaming realm. So many people were inexplicably on leave at the same time. What on earth did the Sky Academy want to do? I can't say. Tribulation shook his head. I signed a confidentiality agreement. You'll know when the time comes. Li Tianlan nodded. Many top-secret actions of the special warfare system of Jianghu State had to be signed in advance, and only the planners and main participants of the action were qualified to sign it. It was a kind of status, but it was more of a responsibility. Since it was a top-secret action, those who signed the confidentiality agreement must keep their mouths shut. Once the news was leaked, everyone would be implicated, and no one could escape. As the most hidden but also the sharpest sword of the country in times of peace, the special warfare system was often not bound by the law. But once all kinds of constraints were formed, it was often high pressure, like this time. The headmaster is back? Li Tianlan asked softly. Yes. Tribulation nodded and said in a hoarse voice, he just came back this morning. Li Tianlan didn't say more, but he already knew in his heart that Zhuang Huayang made such an unreasonable decision as soon as he came back. It could only mean that Yuzhou was not as peaceful as it seemed these days, at least far more than the changes of several important positions in the Sky Academy. In this game, the Wang family of Beihai, the giant group, and Sai City all gained something. As for Samsara, the one who ignited this conflict, and the academic faction who led this trade, they obviously had their own demands. A lot of things were going on behind the scenes in an orderly manner. Today's incident might just be the first inkling, and a bigger storm was obviously still behind. Storm, Li Tianlan smiled inwardly. In the short time since he came to Huading, he had heard too many words such as the coming storm, and the troubled times. As time went by, with the ups and downs of the general trend, the so-called storm finally came. One after another, they passed the unique flower beds and pools in the Sky Academy, entered the villa, and went straight to the headmaster's office. In the office, Zhuang Huayang, who had just returned to the Sky Academy, did not look tired at all. He was glowing and in high spirits. It seemed that both his spirit and mood were excellent. When Li Tianlan came in, Zhuang Huayang was bending over to water the only pot of devil's ivy in the office. A man and a woman were sitting on the sofa in the reception area. The woman was gentle and soft, and the man was rough and bold. For Li Tianlan, they were all acquaintances. Tianlan, here you are. Hearing the sound of the door opening, Zhuang Huayang greeted them with a smile. Then his eyes fell on the reception area, and he said with a smile, General Thunder, Secretary Dongqing, the person you are waiting for is here. In the reception area, Thunder God, who was supposed to spend most of his time with Dongqing Wudi, stood up with a laugh and said in a heroic tone, Boy, come on, Qiu Qi and I have brought you a good thing this time. Li Tianlan was confused. He looked at Zhuang Huayang in tribulation. Seeing that neither of them said anything, he walked to the reception area. The gentle Dongqing Qiuqi nodded to Li Tianlan with a smile, and said in a calm and elegant tone, I came here suddenly. The old master asked me to bring you a good thing, and I must give it to you in person, so I came to have a look. Li Tianlan did not ask what it was. He nodded and said solemnly, Thank the old master for me. Boy, you even need Qiuqi to help you say thank you? You are so heartless. Don't you have the old master's phone number? How hard can it be to call him later and say thank you? The old master didn't say it out loud these days, but you don't know how much he wants you to call him. Thunder God took out a long silver box from his feet and put it on the table. He scolded with a smile, the old master told us in private that he doesn't expect much now. First, he hopes that you and Rushi can go home to see him together. Second, he hopes that you can get married early and give him a great-grandson in a few years. No matter how powerful the old man used to be, he will always be worried and miss the younger generation in the family when they are outside. Boy, you should call the old master when you have nothing to do. Even if you just say a few words, the old man will be happy. Dongqing Chuchi looked at Li Tianlan subconsciously. She was very clear about the engagement between Li Tianlan and her sister, but she did not expect that Grandpa would attach so much importance to this promise made many years ago and Li Tianlan. The younger generation in the family, listening to these words, she was afraid that in Grandpa's eyes, Li Tianlan was more than just his grandson-in-law. His status was even more important than her, his granddaughter. Li Tianlan touched his nose with a wry smile. These words sounded really weird. He could not refute, let alone answer, so he simply changed the topic. He pointed to the box in front of him and asked curiously, "What is this?" Click. Thunder God opened the mechanism of the box, turned the box to Li Tianlan, and said with a smile, "See for yourself." Li Tianlan squatted down casually and touched the box. Then he was stunned. He thought it was just an ordinary metal box, but it felt extremely strange when he touched it. It was neither gold nor wood, and seemed to be some special military material. Even a box was like this, which showed that the thing in the box was absolutely worthy of Thunder God's title of good stuff. He took a deep breath, opened the box, and saw the thing in the box. His pupils contracted instantly. A silver heavy sniper rifle nearly 2 meters long was lying quietly in the box, with a deep and mysterious light. The stock, the scope, the muzzle, the silver heavy sniper rifle had smooth lines and a simple and unadorned design. But lying quietly in the box, it gave people a feeling of extreme coldness and violence. A row of bullets was neatly arranged under the box. The bullets were long and narrow, engraved with some simple patterns. There were about 20 bullets in total. "Boy, pick it up and have a try. What do you think?" Thunder God squinted at the silver sniper rifle in the box, and his eyes were equally hot. This, Li Tianlan hesitated. He did not know how precious this gun was, but he could instinctively sense that this gun was different. The kind of deep silver that was not dazzling, on the contrary, the bullets with complicated patterns, and the gun body that seemed to be natural and even had no artificial traces. All these showed that this gun was absolutely extraordinary. How could it be a good thing? It was simply a treasure. Li Tianlan wanted to refuse such a precious good thing, but looking at the sniper rifle in front of him, he really could not bear to give it up. Even if his shooting skills were not good now, this heavy sniper rifle was extremely attractive to him. If he did not want such a heavy sniper rifle, he would not be wronged even if he was struck by lightning. Li Tianlan struggled for a while, but finally, he could not resist the temptation. He reached out and grabbed the heavy sniper rifle in the box. As soon as the sniper rifle was in his hand, Li Tianlan's palms suddenly sank. This large sniper rifle, nearly 2 meters long, was also unexpectedly heavy. Roughly estimating, it weighed at least 25 kilograms. Li Tianlan held the gun and looked at it silently. The more he looked, the more he loved it. The sense of security when holding the gun in his hand, the cold and violent momentum of the gun body, and everything about it were extremely attractive to him, as if it were tailor-made for him. This is the heavenly rainbow that Dongqing clan recently reported to the army ministry. It is said that when Samsara destroyed Night Spirit, Dongqing clan lent Samsara 10 heavenly rainbows. Is this it? Zhuang Huayang and Tribulation came over at the same time. Looking at the really powerful and violent heavy sniper rifle in Li Tianlan's hand, the old headmaster's eyes were filled with sincere admiration. No. Thunder God shook his head. Looking at Li Tianlan standing with a gun, he only felt that the two were an extraordinary match. The sharpness under Li Tianlan's calmness and the violence under the simplicity of the heavy sniper rifle complemented each other. He smiled and said calmly, "This is Sky Attack, which can be said to be a combination of Mad Shot and Heavenly Rainbow. It is the latest discovery of Dongqing clan, and the final experiment was completed a week ago. Although Sky Attack is not the only one, it can't be mass-produced. At present, the only Sky Attack in the entire Dongqing clan is in Tianlan's hand. This time, not to mention Zhuang Huayang and Dongqing Chuqi, even the eyes of tribulation changed slightly. The only Sky Attack in the Dongqing clan was given to Li Tianlan. This kind of affection was completely an attitude of being willing to do everything for him. Li Tianlan was also stunned. Looking at the heavy sniper rifle in his hand, which he liked from the bottom of his heart, he felt a little heavy for no reason. General Lei, can you tell me the actual combat data of Sky Attack? Zhuang Huayang hesitated and asked with a dignified look. Dongqing clan was known as a military giant. They had made great achievements in some large-scale military projects in Jianghu state, but they did not have much in-depth research in the field of firearms before. Dongqing clan focused on firearms about 15 years ago. Mad Shot came out 9 years ago and amazed the dark world. Recently, Heavenly Rainbow played a significant role in the destruction of the Night Spirit organization by Samsara. So how terrifying would the only Sky Attack be? The accurate range is 5,000 meters, and the maximum range can reach 5,500 meters. It is powerful and fast. Within 3,000 meters, even an expert of the thunder-shocking realm will be seriously injured in an instant if the Sky Attack is launched with all its strength. If it hits a vital part, it will definitely die. In this action, Tianlan has the Sky Attack in his hand, so there should not be too much danger. Within 3,000 meters, he could kill an expert of the thunder-shocking realm with one shot. Zhuang Huayang's face suddenly changed. What did 3,000 meters mean? This distance was not a distance that could be closed in an instant, even for an expert of the invincible realm. Within this distance, if a master who was proficient in sniping aimed at him, 3,000 meters was a natural moat that could determine life and death. A gun that could target an expert of the thunder-shocking realm. How many such heavy sniper rifles could there be in the whole dark world? In addition to the 12 murderous weapons, there were less than 5 kinds of firearms that could achieve such lethality in the dark world. And all of them could not be mass-produced. But the Sky Attack could not be mass-produced. What did this mean? The most important thing was that Dongqing Hangguang did not give the only Sky Attack to Dongqing Rushi, but gave it to Li Tianlan. The corner of Zhuang Huayang's mouth twitched, and he was extremely confused for a moment. Uncle Thunder, I can't. Li Tianlan's face also changed. He was rudely interrupted by Thunder God when he just said a few words. He stared at Li Tianlan with a pair of bull eyes and said in a rude tone, "What can't you do? We can't change what the old master has decided. This Sky Attack is yours, and no one can take it away." He paused and continued, "Don't you have a vacation? I will also be in the Sky Academy during these 40 days. Tribulation is responsible for improving your combat capability, and I am responsible for improving your marksmanship. Boy, this is the real special training. You have to be mentally prepared." Li Tianlan tightly held the heavy sniper rifle in his hand, and his heart was filled with mixed feelings. "Call the old master for me." "No, I'll call him later." He was silent for a while, and then he said in a low voice. Thunder God smiled meaningfully and said softly, "The old master has only one request for you." Li Tianlan nodded seriously and waited for Thunder God to continue. Thunder God glanced at him and continued, "After this special training, the Sky Academy and the Deep Sea Academy will have a top-secret operation. You have the Sky Attack. At that time, the old master hopes that you can protect Rushi well and protect her. As a man, you should protect your family. Boy, do you dare to make this promise? You're tuning into the Carefree Valley YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.